My name is Kayla Mitchell, and I need to tell you about the moment I realized I was invisible to my own family. It happened 1 week before Christmas. Not with shouting. Not with drama. Not with some big confrontation that everyone sees coming. It happened with a photograph. I was folding laundry in my apartment in Portland, Oregon, the small one-bedroom place I'd worked so hard to afford, when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Family group chat. My stomach did that familiar little flip it always did when I saw those notifications. I dried my hands and picked up the phone. The image loaded slowly, and at first, I smiled. My parents' dining room. I'd know those cream-colored walls anywhere, the antique chandelier my mother had spent months hunting for at estate sales. Then I really looked. The mahogany table was set beautifully. Roasted ham with pineapple rings glistening under the warm light. Sweet potato casserole with marshmallows browned to perfection. Mom's famous green bean almondine. Crystal glasses filled with red wine. Candles flickering. 7 people seated around that table. My parents, Roger and Diane, at opposite ends. My older brother Gavin with his wife Natalie. Their 2 kids, 7-year-old twins Emma and Ethan, faces sticky with cranberry sauce. My mother's sister, Aunt Patricia. Everyone dressed up. Everyone smiling mid-laugh at something someone had just said. Every single chair was occupied. Except the one where I always Saturday. The one by the window, second from the left. That chair wasn't just empty. There wasn't even a place setting there. Like they'd arranged the table knowing exactly how many people would come, and I wasn't part of that calculation. My throat tightened. I stared at that photograph for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 2 minutes. I zoomed in, looking for some sign that maybe they'd just started eating early, that maybe my spot was waiting somewhere off camera. Nothing. My fingers trembled slightly as I typed into the group chat. When was this? The 3 dots appeared immediately. Natalie was typing. Tonight. Christmas tree heavy black heart # early Christmas dinner with the whole family. Such a blessing to have everyone together. Everyone. That word sat in my chest like a stone. I hadn't been invited. Nobody had called. Nobody had texted. Nobody had even mentioned that there were Christmas plans happening. I told myself to breathe. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the invitation got lost somehow. Maybe. My phone buzzed again. But not in the group chat. A private message. From my mother. My heart lifted for just a second. Here it was. The apology. The "Oh honey, we totally forgot to tell you about tonight. We are so sorry." I opened it. No greeting. No "Hi sweetheart." No "Hope you're doing well." Just a forwarded email with a subject line that made my blood run cold. Final notice. Auto loan default. Amount due, $30,014.72. Below it, my mother had written exactly 7 words. Handle this before January please. Gavin's car. Not, can you help? Not, we're in a bind. Not even, sorry to ask. Just, handle this. Like I was customer service. Like I was tech support for the family's financial disasters. I sat down heavily on my couch, phone still in my hand, and looked back at that photograph. That perfect, happy family photograph. Everyone together. Everyone except me. And suddenly, the truth was so clear it actually hurt to breathe. They didn't want me at their table. They just wanted access to my bank account. I want you to understand something about my family before we go further. This wasn't new. The exclusion was new. The cruelty of that photograph was new. But being treated like the family ATM? That was a pattern 20 years in the making. I'm 34 years old. I work as a senior financial analyst for a tech company in Portland. I make good money, not rich, but comfortable. I own my car outright, a modest Honda Civic. I have savings. I have a retirement account. I pay my bills on time, every time. I did everything right. And somehow, that became my crime. Gavin is 2 years older than me, but you'd never know it from how our parents treat him. He's always been the golden child. The charming one. The one who could do no wrong even when he was doing literally everything wrong. When he was 19, he crashed Dad's truck into a mailbox while drunk. I was 17. Dad made me drive out at 2 a.m. to pick him up from the police station because Kayla's the responsible one. When he was 23, he racked up $8,000 in credit card debt buying rounds at bars and betting on football games. Mom sat me down in the kitchen and told me, to give him money to pay it off. Just this once, she said. He's learned his lesson. He hadn't. When he was 27, he got engaged to Natalie and they wanted a wedding they couldn't afford. Guess who got voluntold to contribute $5,000 toward the venue? I could see the pattern, but I told myself it was what families do. You help each other. You show up. You sacrifice. And I kept believing that right up until that photograph. Sitting on my couch that December evening, I pulled up my banking app and looked at my transaction history. Not because I needed to check if I could afford $30,000. I knew I couldn't, not without devastating my savings, but because I needed to see the pattern in black and white. There it was. March 2021, $600 to Gavin for car repairs. July 2021, $1,200 to Gavin for emergency dental work. November 2021, $800 to my parents just to help with bills. February 2022, $2,000 to Gavin for first and last month's rent on a new apartment. June 2022, $450 to Gavin for a speeding ticket. October 2022, $1,000 to my parents for property taxes. The list went on. And on. And on. In 3 years, I'd given my family over $15,000. Not loaned. Given. Because nobody ever paid me back. And when was the last time someone from my family had called just to ask how I was doing? When was the last birthday card? When was the last time anyone showed interest in my life beyond what I could provide for theirs? I couldn't remember. I opened the email my mother had forwarded. The car loan was through Pacific Northwest Credit Union. The vehicle, a 2023 Ford F-150 Platinum Edition. Because of course Gavin needed a $65,000 truck. The loan was in his name and my father's name as co-signer. They'd taken it out 2 years ago. And they'd made exactly 6 payments before stopping. 90 days past due. Multiple attempts to contact the borrowers. Final notice before repossession. My mother's message hadn't said, "Can you help us figure this out?" It hadn't said, "We're desperate and don't know what to do." It said, "Handle this." Like it was my responsibility. Like I'd somehow signed up for this. I looked at that family photo again. Zoomed in on the empty space where I should have been sitting. And something inside me just snapped. Not with anger. Not with tears. With clarity. Crystal clear, cold clarity. They'd made a choice about who belonged at that table. They decided I wasn't worth a phone call, wasn't worth a place setting, wasn't worth a second thought. But I was worth $30,000. I picked up my phone and dialed Pacific Northwest Credit Union's customer service line. A cheerful voice answered, "Pacific Northwest Credit Union, this is Brandon speaking. How can I help you today?" My voice was steady, calmer than I'd felt in years. "Hi Brandon. My name is Kayla Mitchell. I need to verify some information about an auto loan that someone thinks I'm responsible for." "That's correct. You're not listed anywhere on this account." Something loosened in my chest. "And I see the account is 90 days past due. What happens next?" Brandon's voice became more cautious, more professional. "Well, we've sent multiple notices to both borrowers. We've attempted phone contact 17 times. At this stage, the next step is vehicle recovery." "Repossession," I said. "Yes, I took a breath. This was it. The moment where I could keep being the fixer, the responsible one, the person who smoothed everything over and made problems disappear. Or I could choose myself. "Brandon," I said slowly, "I received a forwarded notice of this default. The primary borrower's family is under the impression that I'm going to resolve this situation. I want to make something very clear. I will not be making any payments on this loan. Not now, not ever. Proceed with your normal collections process." Silence on the other end. Then, just to clarify, you're saying you want us to continue with repossession? You're not going to intervene. "That's exactly what I'm saying." "But your family, right? I just want to make sure you understand." "I understand perfectly," I interrupted. I'm not on the loan. It's not my responsibility. Proceed with repossession. Okay then. Brandon sounded almost impressed. We'll move forward. The recovery team will likely collect the vehicle within 48 to 72 hours. Thank you, Brandon. You've been very helpful. You're welcome. Is there anything else? Actually, yes. One more thing. If anyone from the Mitchell family contacts your office claiming to represent me or asking you to delay because I'm handling it, that's not true. Only I can speak for myself. Understood. Understood. I'll put a note in the file. I hung up. My apartment was completely quiet. The laundry I'd been folding sat in a basket, forgotten. The December rain pattered against the windows. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. For the first time in my adult life, I'd drawn a boundary. A real one. Not a tentative, maybe I shouldn't help this time, that I'd cave on the moment someone pressured me. A boundary made of steel. I looked at my phone, half expecting it to ring immediately, like the universe would somehow alert my family to what I'd just done. But of course it didn't. They had no idea. I didn't text my mother back. Didn't acknowledge her demand. Just let it sit there, unread but not unanswered. The answer was in what I'd just set in motion. That night, I made myself dinner, pasta carbonara, the real kind with guanciale that I'd picked up from the Italian market downtown. I opened a bottle of Pinot Noir I'd been saving. I put on my favorite playlist and cooked slowly, deliberately. I ate at my small kitchen table, just me, and I didn't feel lonely. I felt present. For years, I'd been so busy being useful that I'd forgotten to just be. I thought about that photograph again, but this time it didn't hurt. This time, I saw it for what it really was: evidence. Documentation. Proof that I'd been right about how they saw me. I wasn't being paranoid or sensitive or overdramatic. I was being excluded while simultaneously being exploited. And I'd just stopped allowing it. I slept better that night than I had in months. 3 days passed. 3 beautiful, quiet days where I heard nothing from my family. I went to work, finished a major quarterly report, went to yoga classes, meal prepped for the week. Normal life. My life. On the 3rd day, Friday afternoon, I was in a meeting when my phone started vibrating in my pocket. Again. And again. And again. I ignored it. The meeting was important. We were discussing budget allocations for Q1. When I finally checked my phone during a break, I had 14 missed calls. 6 from my mother. 4 from my father. 3 from Gavin. 1 from Natalie. And 7 text messages in the family group chat that I'd muted, but could still see the notification count for. My hands were steady as I opened them. The first one, from Gavin, time-stamped 2 hours earlier. What the fuck? My truck is gone. Someone stole it from Mom and Dad's driveway. My mother, we've called the police. This is terrible. Right before Christmas. My father, the neighbors saw a tow truck. We are trying to figure out what's happening. Natalie, this is so scary. What if someone is targeting the family? Then, about 40 minutes later, after they'd presumably called the credit union, Gavin, IT wasn't stolen. It was repossessed. They said the loan is 90 days past due. What the hell, Dad? You said you were making the payments. My father, I told you I couldn't keep up with it. I told you to ask your sister. And there it was. My mother, Kayla, call me right now. This is an emergency. I stared at that message for a long moment. An emergency. $30,000 of someone else's debt was an emergency, but not inviting me to Christmas dinner wasn't even worth mentioning. I didn't call. Instead, I screenshot the messages. Saved them. Evidence for myself that this reaction was exactly what I'd expected. Then I went back to my meeting. My phone rang again during the afternoon. My mother, persistent. I let it go to voicemail. She left one, 3 minutes long. I didn't listen to it. Not yet. At 5 p.m., I packed up my desk and headed home. Portland traffic was its usual nightmare, brake lights glowing red in the early winter darkness. I sat in my Civic, NPR playing softly, completely calm. My phone rang again. My father this time. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? Kayla, thank God. His voice was tight, stressed. Why haven't you been answering? I was at work, Dad. I have a job. We have a serious problem. Gavin's truck was repossessed today. The tow truck came while your mother was in the house. The neighbors saw everything. Do you understand how embarrassing this is? I merged lanes carefully before responding. I do understand. It must be very embarrassing to have your vehicle repossessed because you didn't make payments on a loan you voluntarily took out. Silence. Then, your mother sent you the notice. We assumed you were handling it. You assumed wrong. Kayla, this isn't like you. You always help. We need. Need what, Dad? Need me to pay $30,000? For a truck I didn't buy, didn't use, and wasn't even consulted about. It's family. That's what family does. I pulled into my apartment complex and put the car in park but didn't get out. Is it? Is that what family does? Because family also includes people in Christmas dinner. Family also calls to invite people to gatherings. Family also considers whether someone might want to be part of things before sending them a bill. Another silence. Longer this time. We didn't think. You're always so busy with work. We just thought. You didn't think I'd notice, I said quietly. That's the truth. You didn't think I'd care about the photo. You thought I'd see it, see the bill, and just handle it. Like always. Kayla, sweetheart. Don't. I called the credit union, Dad. I told them I'm not paying. I told them to proceed with collections. That truck is gone, and it's going to stay gone unless one of the two people whose names are actually on the loan takes responsibility. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. You did this? You told them to take it. I told them the truth. That it's not my debt. That's all. Your brother needs that truck for work. Then your brother should have made the payments. My father's voice rose. This is going to ruin his credit. He'll never get another loan. That's what happens when you default on a $30,000 loan, Dad. Those are consequences. Adults face them. I can't believe you're being this selfish. There it was. The word that made everything clear. Selfish. After years of money, years of helping, years of showing up, being reliable, being the one they could count on. The first time I said no, I was selfish. Okay, I said softly. If that's how you see it, then I'm selfish. I can live with that. And I hung up. I should have known they wouldn't let it go. You don't spend your whole life training someone to be useful and then just accept it when they stop. Habits that deep don't break easily, especially when the people benefiting from them refuse to see the problem. But I didn't expect them to show up at my workplace. It was the following Tuesday, 4 days after the truck had been repossessed. I was at my desk, working through a spreadsheet analysis, when my desk phone rang. Internal line. Reception. Hey Kayla, there are some people here to see you. They say they're family. Becca, our receptionist, sounded uncertain. They don't have an appointment. My stomach dropped. Who is it? A Diane and Roger Mitchell? They seem pretty upset. Of course they were here. Of course they'd escalate. Because that's what happens when you stop playing your assigned role. People panic. I'll be right down, I said. I saved my work, closed my laptop, and took the elevator down to the lobby. The glass doors of our building's entrance showed the December gloom outside, grey sky, wet sidewalks, people hurrying past with umbrellas. And there, near the reception desk, stood my parents. My mother wore her expensive wool coat, the black one she saved for important occasions. Her hair was perfect, her makeup immaculate. But her expression was ice. My father looked uncomfortable, hands shoved in his jacket pockets, eyes darting around the modern lobby like he didn't belong there. They didn't. I walked over slowly, aware that Becca was watching, that a few of my co-workers were in the lobby cafe area, probably noticing the tension. Mom. Dad. My voice was level. Professional. This isn't a good time. I'm at work. My mother's eyes flashed. We need to talk. Now. Then call me later. We've been calling you for days. You're not answering. Several people turned to look. I felt heat creep up my neck, but I kept my voice calm. Because I have nothing to say. I told Dad my position. That hasn't changed. Your position. My mother said it like the words tasted bitter. Your position is to humiliate your brother? To destroy his credit? To make us look like failures in front of the entire neighborhood? My position, I said quietly, is that I'm not responsible for debt that isn't mine. You could have prevented this. Her voice was rising. You saw the notice. You knew what would happen. You deliberately let them take his truck. My father put a hand on her arm. Diane, people are staring. She shook him off. I don't care. She needs to hear this. What you did was cruel, Kayla. Cruel and petty and vindictive. Something inside me went very still. Very cold. Vindictive, I repeated. You think I'm being vindictive? What else would you call it? I looked at my mother, really looked at her. At the designer coat I'd helped pay for 2 Christmases ago, when she said they were tight on money. At the highlights in her hair from the expensive salon she went to monthly. At the righteous anger in her eyes that came from genuinely believing she was right. I'd call it, I said slowly, a boundary. A boundary, my mother scoffed. Since when do you have boundaries with family? Since the family decided I wasn't worth a seat at the table. Her face went blank. Just for a second. Like I'd spoken a foreign language. My father shifted uncomfortably. Kayla, that's not, we didn't mean. Didn't mean what? I turned to him. Didn't mean to exclude me? Didn't mean to have Christmas dinner without even mentioning it? Or didn't mean for me to notice? You're always so busy, my mother said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. We just assumed. You assumed I wouldn't mind. You assumed I'd be fine with it. You assumed I'd see that perfect family photo and then see the bill for Gavin's truck and just pay it. Like that's my role. Like that's all I'm for. That's not true, my mother said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. Isn't it? When was the last time you called me just to talk? When was the last time anyone asked about my life? My job? Whether I'm dating anyone? Whether I'm happy? Silence. But you know exactly when to call about money, I continued. You know exactly when Gavin needs something. That communication line is crystal clear. My father's face had gone red. We're your parents. Helping family isn't supposed to be transactional. You're right, I said. It's not supposed to be. But that's exactly what you've made it. You don't want a daughter. You want a checkbook that occasionally shows up to make you look good. How dare you? My mother started. I dare because I'm done, I said, and my voice didn't shake. I'm done being the backup plan. I'm done being the solution to problems I didn't create. I'm done paying for my brother's mistakes while he gets all the credit for his successes. I'm done being invisible until you need something. My mother's mouth opened and closed. She had no script for this. For me pushing back. For me saying the quiet part out loud. Gavin's truck is gone because Gavin and Dad didn't make the payments, I said. That's not my fault. That's not my problem. And it's definitely not my responsibility to fix. We thought we could count on you, my father said quietly. You could have, I replied. You could have had a daughter who showed up for everything, who helped with everything, who loved being part of this family. But you chose to make me an ATM instead. So that's what you lost. Not just my money. You lost me. I could see it register on his face. The first real understanding that this wasn't about the truck. This was about years of being taken for granted. Years of being treated like I was valuable only when I was useful. Kayla, my mother whispered, and for the first time, she sounded uncertain. We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said simply. And then, when you needed something, you contacted me anyway. That's what tells me everything I need to know about what I mean to this family. I turned toward the elevator. Don't come to my workplace again. If you want to talk, call. But know that nothing about my decision has changed. Gavin's debt is Gavin's problem. Figure it out without me. Kayla, please. I walked away. Behind me, I heard my mother say something to my father, heard his low response, heard their footsteps heading toward the door. I got in the elevator and pressed the button for my floor. My hands were shaking now. Adrenaline, finally catching up. But I'd done it. I'd said everything I needed to say. And I'd walked away. After that confrontation, something strange happened. Nothing. Complete, absolute silence from my family. The group chat went dark. No more photos, no more casual updates, no more emoji-filled messages about someone's kid doing something cute. No calls. No texts. No emails. It was like I'd been erased. At first, I checked my phone compulsively. Not because I wanted to hear from them, but because the silence felt almost unnatural after years of constant contact, even if that contact had mostly been demands. Days turned into a week. Then 2 weeks. Christmas came and went. I spent Christmas Eve at my friend Lexi's house in the suburbs. She'd invited me months ago, long before everything exploded. Her family was loud, chaotic, welcoming. They played board games and argued good-naturedly about whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie. Her mom made too much food and sent me home with leftovers. It was the first Christmas in years where I felt light. Like I could just exist without waiting for the other shoe to drop, without wondering when someone would need something from me. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. Late on Christmas night, alone in my apartment, I looked at my phone. Still nothing from my family. Not even a Merry Christmas text. Nothing. They'd really chosen this. They'd chosen to shut me out completely rather than acknowledge that they'd hurt me. Rather than apologize. Rather than even try to see things from my perspective. The message was clear. If I wasn't going to be useful, I wasn't going to be family. Part of me wanted to cry. The little girl part that still remembered when things had been simpler, when I believed my parents loved me unconditionally, when I'd looked up to my big brother. But mostly, I felt relieved. Because silence was better than exploitation. Being alone was better than being used. On New Year's Eve, Lexi called. Come out with us. We're going to that new rooftop bar downtown. You cannot bring in the new year alone watching Netflix. I almost said no. But then I thought, why not? Why should I sit home being sad about people who clearly didn't value me? So I went. The bar was packed, everyone dressed up, champagne flowing. The Portland skyline glittered beyond the windows. At midnight, strangers counted down together, and when everyone cheered and hugged, Lexi pulled me into a tight embrace. This year is going to be better, she whispered in my ear. I can feel it. And standing there, surrounded by people who actually wanted me around, I believed her. January crawled forward. Grey skies, cold rain, the post-holiday slump. I threw myself into work. My boss praised the Q4 analysis I'd completed. I got a small raise, not huge, but something. I started using the money I used to give my family on myself. I bought fresh flowers for my apartment every week. I upgraded my coffee maker. I booked a weekend trip to Seattle in February. Small things. But they mattered. Because for the first time, I was investing in my own happiness instead of someone else's convenience. Then, in late January, 28 days after the workplace confrontation, my phone buzzed. A text from my father. Just 3 words. We should talk. I stared at those words for a long time. Part of me, the old part, the part that had been trained to be accommodating and understanding, wanted to call immediately. Wanted to fix things. Wanted to smooth everything over. But I remembered the empty chair. I remembered the bill. I remembered the word selfish. I remembered standing in my office building lobby, saying things I'd needed to say for years. And I typed back the same words he'd used to justify excluding me. I'm busy. Then I put my phone down and went back to the book I was reading. It felt good. It felt powerful. For so long, they'd controlled the narrative, controlled when and how we communicated, controlled what I was supposed to prioritize. Not anymore. My father texted again an hour later. It's important. I didn't respond. 2 days passed. Then my mother texted, Your father and I would like to meet for coffee. Please. The please was new. That was interesting. I thought about it for a full day before responding. What do you want to discuss? My mother. Everything. We owe you a conversation. I almost laughed. A conversation. Now. After weeks of silence. After showing up at my workplace. After all of it. I'll think about it, I texted back. But I didn't think about it. Not really. Because I'd already made my decision. I wasn't going to rush to fix this. I wasn't going to make it easy. They'd spent years making me feel like I was only valuable when I was solving their problems. Now they could sit with their own discomfort for a while. See how they liked it. 6 weeks after I authorized the repossession of Gavin's truck, I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop in Portland's Pearl District when I finally agreed to meet my parents. Not because I'd forgiven them. Not because I thought everything would magically be fine. But because I was curious. Curious if they'd actually thought about what they'd done. Curious if they understood. Curious if the silence had taught them anything. We met at a neutral location, a quiet cafe neither of us had history with. Saturday morning, mid-February. Rain tapped against the windows. The cafe smelled like espresso and cinnamon. My parents arrived exactly on time. They looked older somehow. Tired. My mother's makeup wasn't quite as perfect as usual. My father's shoulders were hunched. They sat across from me in the corner booth I'd chosen. Nobody spoke for a moment. Finally, my father cleared his throat. Thank you for coming. I nodded. Waited. My mother's hands wrapped around her coffee cup. We've been doing a lot of thinking. About Christmas. About everything. Okay, I said simply. We didn't see it, my father said. We didn't see how we'd been treating you. Not until you laid it all out at your office. Actually, I said quietly, you didn't see it until I stopped being useful. That's different. My mother flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? You went weeks without talking to me. Weeks. The longest we've ever gone. And the only reason we are sitting here now is because the silent treatment didn't make me cave. My father sighed heavily. You're right. You're absolutely right. That surprised me. I'd expected defensiveness. Excuses. More blame. Gavin had to sell his wedding ring to buy a used car, my mother said abruptly. Natalie is furious with him. They're in counseling. I felt a small pang of something, not quite sympathy, but not satisfaction either. I'm sorry their marriage is struggling. But that's not my responsibility either. We know, my father said quickly. We're not asking you to fix it. We're just telling you what's happened. Your father and I had to take out a personal loan, my mother continued, to settle the repossession fees and the remaining balance. Our credit took a hit too. I nodded slowly. That's what happens when you co-sign for someone who doesn't pay. We should have made him handle it himself from the beginning, my father admitted. We enabled him. 4 years. And we made you the backup plan for our enabling. Now I was really surprised. That was more self-awareness than I'd expected. Why did you do it? I asked. Why was it always so easy to ask me for money but so hard to just include me? My mother's eyes got shiny. Because you were doing fine. You've always been fine. You didn't need us the way Gavin seemed to need us. So you just assumed I didn't need anything? Not money. Connection. To feel like I mattered. We took you for granted, my father said simply. We took your strength for granted. Your independence. Your willingness to help. We convinced ourselves that because you were capable, you were also immune to being hurt. I felt tears prick my own eyes. I'm not immune. I never was. We know that now, my mother whispered. That photo. God, Kayla, when you mentioned the photo, I went back and looked at it, and I felt sick. We really did that. We really excluded you and then asked you for money like it was nothing. It wasn't nothing to me, I said. It broke something. Can we fix it? My father asked. Is there any way to fix this? I took a sip of my coffee. Let the question hang there. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if we can fix it. But I know we can't go back to how it was. That version of our family was broken. I was just the only one who could see it. What do you need from us? My mother asked. Tell us. Please. I thought about it. Really thought about it. I need you to see me as a person, not a solution, I said finally. I need you to stop treating Gavin like he's incapable of handling his own life. I need you to understand that helping family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. And I need you to include me, actually include me, not because you need something, but because you want me there. We do want you there, my father said. Then prove it. Prove it over time. Prove it with actions, not words. No more last-minute money requests. No more assumptions that I'll just handle things. No more making me feel like an ATM with a daughter attached. My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face now. We can do that. We will do that. And I need space, I added. I need time to figure out if I even want this relationship to continue. Because right now, I'm happier alone than I was being used. That one landed hard. I could see it on their faces. We understand, my father said hoarsely. Whatever you need. We sat there for a while longer. They asked about my job, my apartment, my life. Small talk, but real. Like they were actually interested. Like I was actually a person to them. I didn't know if it would last. I didn't know if they'd really change. But I knew one thing for certain. I would never go back to being that woman who paid for a seat at a table where she wasn't welcome. 3 months later, I got invited to Easter dinner. A real invitation. 3 weeks in advance. My mother called and asked if I was free, if I'd like to come, if I had any dietary restrictions they should know about. I almost said no out of habit. Out of protection. But I said yes. I showed up with a homemade dessert, lemon bars, my grandmother's recipe. The table was set with a place for me. My actual seat. By the window. Gavin was there with Natalie and the kids. It was awkward at first. He didn't apologize, didn't really acknowledge what had happened. But he didn't ask me for money either. My parents told stories. We laughed. It wasn't perfect. The wound was still there, still healing. But I was there because they wanted me there. Not because they needed something from me. And that made all the difference. As I drove home that evening, the spring sun finally breaking through Portland's eternal clouds, I thought about that December photograph. The empty chair. The $30,000 bill. It had hurt so much in the moment. But that hurt had set me free. Free from being useful instead of loved. Free from sacrificing myself to keep the peace. Free from believing that my value came from what I could provide rather than who I was. I still don't know if my family has truly changed. Maybe they have. Maybe they'll slip back into old patterns. Maybe this peace is temporary. But I've changed. I know my worth now. I know what I deserve. I know that being alone is better than being used. And I know that the most expensive thing I ever paid for wasn't my apartment, or my car, or any of the thousands of dollars I gave my family over the years. It was the price of finally saying no. And the freedom that came with it? That was priceless.